Hey everyone, I'm Grandmailer Sheldon. Welcome to CineD. Marc Winski is an actor and activist, and today we are discussing stuttering and disability representation in entertainment. Most recently, Marc worked on The Penguin for HBO Max, and don't worry, this video is spoiler-free. We touch on topics like how can you write a character with a disability in a way that feels authentic, and what does it feel like to have a stutter? Also, how are we doing as an industry when it comes to writing and creating characters with disabilities? And we talk about much, much more. I found this conversation with Marc to be absolutely fascinating, and I hope you enjoy it.
You're watching CineD, supported by B&H and CVP.
Welcome to the channel, Marc.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Graham. Appreciate you.
Marc, I guess we should start maybe with a disclosure off the top here. We actually went to school together. We both went to Indiana University Theater. So right off the top, I know you, and it's great to see you again. It's been a while.
Excited just to chat about all this.
Well, now, Marc, you are an actor, obviously. You're also an activist, and you specialize in disability representation in entertainment and media. And your most recent credit is something folks may have heard of, The Penguin on HBO Max. And I'm just curious, we could start right there. What's it like to get a call from the team on this show to work on a project like The Penguin?
Yeah, so getting the call just really came out of the blue. I was doing a lot of social media advocacy with stuttering awareness and disability representation in TV, film, and media. And I got a call from a producer at HBO saying, you're an actor and you stutter as well. Do you know anybody who is a person who stutters, a Latino actor, 18 plus to play 17, able to play number 2 on a call sheet of a high profile HBO show? And I said, no, I don't, because as we'll get to, that representation isn't quite there yet in Hollywood. And I said, if there's any way that I can help out, let me know. And I got a call 2 months later saying, we got our guy. Unfortunately, he doesn't stutter, but would you be interested in teaching him? Is that something that you've done before? And it had been. And I agreed to do this as long as it was the most authentic representation that we can do. So they agreed, and it was just exciting to be on that same page of having to get the best kind of representation that we can.
So they found their guy. We should name the guy. It's Rhenzy Feliz, yeah?
Yeah, Rhenzy Feliz. He's just an incredible soul. First off, he was just so open to really get into this role and get into this character and this vulnerable way of learning.
You and Sophia, are we kind of partners now?
Temporarily.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle.
I've seen stuff. Stuff that I shouldn't have.
You still think there's good and bad? There's just this. Survival.
Did Rhenzy come in with questions? Did you prepare like a presentation? Did Rhenzy have ideas about how, he wanted the stuttering to sort of, when that would come in, how that would work. I have many questions, so pick it, whichever one you want.
Rhenzy came in as an open book. He was so excited to kind of learn and be involved in the process of creating a character that really hasn't been seen on TV before. First of all, it's a brand new character to the DC universe. So, um, along with incredible director, producer Craig Zobel and um our showrunner Lauren Frank, we were able to really craft this character in a way that hit every spot of not just a three-dimensional DC character, but also able to choose our spots of authenticity, which was really, really cool to be a part of.
So the primary goal was to not have this performance ring false to the community. Like, was that one of the main goals?
Exactly. There is so much disability representation that is not good. We've seen a lot of stereotypes. We've seen actors that portray disabled people who aren't disabled and just do a terrible job, especially with stuttering as nuanced as it is to capture it. The only good representation that we've seen specifically as a stuttering community, taking that, is the King's Speech with Colin Firth, who again did his research, had a great coach, and just really, really, really did some authentic physical stuttering work. What was so cool about this project is Rhenzy and I were not able just to work on the repetitions and the blocks and those things. I'd say about 80% of our time together was the internal feelings and the internal thoughts about the shame that comes with being a 17-year-old kid in the Bronx, and feeling which places he is thinking about not stuttering, because as a teenager with somebody who hasn't been told that it's okay to stutter and be authentically yourself, this character Victor will he'll kind of circumnavigate his words, and he'll change around his words in order to be heard, kind of like those things I'd be doing there. So it was so great to take him through exercises about calling restaurants and calling Trader Joe's. And I would do one of my favorite exercises, which, if you don't mind, I'll kind of put you on the spot here. I didn't plan this, but if you'd be interested in going through an exercise, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, great. Cool. So, just first things first, I would like you to take a deep breath and hold that breath from right in your throat area, just for now. take a deep breath and just go uh, and really push from that throat
Uh, uh,
area.
uh,
Really like
uh,
take that
uh.
sound to where it's not allowing the sound to come out. There is a brick wall right in front of your mouth, and you try to push through that brick wall.
Uh, 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 uh. So it feels like a constriction in the throat.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So there's that. That's part one. Okay. Part two is I would like you to just um tell me about what happened today for you from getting out of bed till right now. I'm like interested in what your day is before talking to me.
So yeah, woke up, got a burrito that my wife and I shared. Went
Cool.
to our
So pause that. Great things. Now I'm gonna have you say the same thing, add on to it, whatever you need. But every time I put my hand up like this, you have to hold that word, that sound until I put my hand back down and then continue as usual.
Okay. So I woke up. I got a
So keep that a
oh, I
sound.
see holding it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Woke
yeah,
up.
yeah. Just hold
Okay.
it.
Woke up, got a burrito, went and got some coffee. At some point, went to storage and got a few other lighting options for the space here.
What did you do? I don't.
Got lights for the
Wait,
space.
hold on.
Oh, yeah, you're holding your hand up.
Yeah.
Light for the space here and lit this room and set up a little bit of audio. I have a lav mic attached. I'm looking into a Sony camera and yeah, just looking forward to talking to you. And then yeah, is this what the experience is like?
What did that kind of feel like, both physically, not so much, because that's part of it, but what did that feel like internally?
I started off just being a little nervous, like, oh, I want to do a good job for Mark. It's been a few years since then it kind of, there was I guess, frustration that I was like, oh, I can't continue because the thought was right there, but I couldn't continue. Yeah, I guess frustration.
Was there any sort of anticipation, like, oh, like when is it gonna come up again? Like when is it gonna, like, oh, like I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to just be fluent? And did that come up at all yet?
Yes. And so at first I'm like, I'm looking for patterns because I'm a human. So I was like, okay, maybe Mark does this every 3 seconds. Like you're going to hold it for 3 and then lower it. And then you weren't. And then you were holding it longer sometimes and like less other times. So I kind of stopped looking for patterns, which made it very hard to anticipate.
Interesting, because the only thing I asked you was tell me about your day, right? A simple thing like what'd you do today? And then all of these other things started to pop in your head. And those were kind of the things that I wanted to ingrain in Victor, because those things um aren't going to be like seen or heard, but the audience is gonna pick up on something that's going to be there that they can't really uh, hold or touch. So those were a lot of the things that we did through our time together.
So for the character Victor, and I guess just for the stuttering community in general, is this a different answer for each person? But is there something that's happening to Victor that creates that stutter? Do you know what I mean? Is there a stimuli? Is the penguin like intimidating to Victor and that causes the stutter? Do you make these choices? Is it different every time? Is it not tied to that?
Yeah, so Renzi and I took great care to create Victor's specific speech pattern. We went through backstory and we went through maybe some prime situations that maybe he had in school that caused him um to feel like he had to pause or had to change his words with different hierarchy situations. So people who stutter don't stutter because they're nervous. It's just something that happens in the brain where the synapses of the brain just happen to cause the vocal folds to shut and not open back up. Now, those things can be triggered by different things, but I think the most fascinating thing is that when a lot of people stutter, a lot of the physical things that people will see isn't the actual stutter itself. It's years and decades of the micro traumas that kind of force people to hold their voices back and not allow those scary sounds to come out. So those were a lot of the things that we crafted in every scene. We broke down who Victor is talking to. Does Victor feel like he can stutter in this scenario that he's in? Like, who is he more comfortable with? Is this someone who wants to hurt him, or is it someone who's his partner or family member, which comes with its own um, conversation?
Mark, absolutely fascinating. Well, switching away from the penguin for just a little bit, how do you think generally we're doing in film, television, theater? I mean, name your medium when it comes to representing disabilities in 2024. I mean, you mentioned the King's Speech is really the only other, project that you can point to that kind of nailed it. So to me, that means we're not doing great. But what are your thoughts? How are we doing as an industry?
I think as the overarching disability representation, I really do think people are getting better. People are trying to put a lot more diversity and representation in their art forms. At least from the things I've seen from a casting director perspective, a lot of casting that I've seen as an actor um, is really trying to put people in there, put people in the rooms of directors and executive producers. What's so tough is, especially post COVID, things I've noticed is that a lot of the higher ups in this case feel as if they're taking a chance or taking a risk by putting in diversity, by putting in things that are different. Um, and until those differences are seen, it's tough to know what they're going to look like. Um, I think my favorite story is was on a panel and I had a question from a director saying, "Hey, let's say I'm casting, I don't know, Grease, and I don't think that my Danny Zuko should stutter. What would you say to that?" Mark and I said, "Well, first off, why not? Like, why why can't he?" And he was taken aback, and he said, "Oh, I just don't think he's that kind of a person." And I told him, "I guarantee you that people who stutter do everything or say everything that Danny has said." And I think that's how it goes into all of this um, casting responsibility is anyone who has a disability can be any person. There's no there's no kind of hierarchy of person from doctor to lawyer to cashier to any job, any human can have this characteristic about them, and it's important that that is shown a lot more moving forward. Hope that answered your question.
As a producer, I mean, putting my producer hat on for a second, I'm in the Producers Guild of America. I've made, I don't know, 7 or 8 movies at this point. Some are scripted, some are not. So there's just a really quick background if you know don't know that about me if you're watching. I feel the pull that you're talking about, which is don't like mitigate risk, get rid of risk, cast people only that you have seen do the exact thing, which is incredibly annoying for actors, that you've seen them do this thing before and ask them to do it again, you know, like 1-to-1, which actors hate because that's not really moving out of their like comfort zone. Audiences hate because they are like, well, I've seen X actor do this before. You know, so I feel, you know, and I think that goes away as we progress through our careers. You know, for me, I'm like, okay, now I've made a couple of these. I'm not going to just overtly screw this up out of the gate. Now I'm going to take a little bit more risk, you know, usually with casting, you know, obviously never with things like safety. So, but back to the overall industry, I think I feel like we backslid a little bit, maybe because of the pandemic. I do think, just speaking for general Hollywood, I feel like we're like, oh God, the pandemic was horrible. The whole industry changed. Streaming now is in chaos. Now we're going to get back to a really safe, big heavy quotes around it, where we're taking less risk, where we're having less diversity. So I feel a little bit of a backslide, to be honest. We had these sort of initiatives back in 2018, 2019, where it's like 50-50 in terms of female representation as directors by X date. And the pandemic hit and that all sort of went away because we were like, oh God, our careers are going to die, you know? And I do have a fair amount of worry about that, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation. So then when I saw The Penguin and I found out you were on that project, I was like, okay, yes, this is a great example. This is a huge, you know, A++, huge budget project for HBO Max, you know, Sunday time slot. Okay, great. We're doing the right thing here. So I don't know, long answer. So I think we're doing okay.
What I'm so honored about is this team didn't know me. I didn't have any other connection with this team other than I've got some followers on social media. I've posted things. I've acted in a couple things. Um, Other than that, they didn't know. It was this trust that they had and the conversations that I was able to have with the writers team and with the head producers and directors that really opened up their eyes and allowed them to then push this character even further and further. And just it's so cool that Victor has a stutter. That's great. It doesn't have anything to do with the show whatsoever. It's not. It's not talked about. It's not. It's not a overcoming story of, oh, he stuttered in episode 1 and then he found his true self and then doesn't stutter anymore. No, he's just a character who stutters, and it's really cool to see the arc of that.
You mentioned the writing team on The Penguin. So, what should writers consider before creating a character with a disability? It can be stuttering, but it could be something else too. Is it on the writers to kind of, I mean, have some thought early on, like how this is portrayed, or is it really on the director or the actor to get that right, or a combination?
Great question, Graham. It's a great question. It's everyone. Have people in the room that at least have either had a disability or there's something that they're involved in, an organization that either has that or a lot of sets are doing as what I did, having a coordinator, a disability a coordinator, so that when these questions do come up, it's right there. Kind of like an intimacy coordinator would be if we as artists are trying to create reality, right? Then we need these things. I said to a voiceover agent one time when he asked me if there's anything I could do to alleviate my stutter. I said, uh, I guarantee you that people who stutter buy Pampers and they buy Starbucks and like they do these things. So if we are creating this world of inclusivity that exists in our real world, then these people have to exist too.
And that, yeah, and that realness, that authenticity just serves to make a better project. I mean, that's one of the things that drives me nuts. I hear this occasionally where people say, oh, this is a conversation that's a woke conversation. No, you're making a better project. Your whatever it is going to read as more truthful, which is the end goal if you go through these steps. So I mean, do you think, so this is kind of adjacent to film and television, but President Biden's stuttering, do you think that's helped build general awareness about the community at all?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, I think a lot of people that finally learned that he does stutter point blank, not he stuttered as a kid or he stuttered like did stutter. No, he stutters. I think as soon as people saw that, like that wasn't really part of the conversation anymore. Even people who didn't love his policies or what he stood for, I saw those people being so upfront with people that would mock him, saying, "Hey, like, what are you doing? Like, he stutters, period." Um, so having that as kind of a platform has been great.
Where can people find out more about you, more about your work? Can you drop some of your socials here, maybe your website?
Yeah, my website is www.markwinski.com. I'm on all social media platforms. I just watched a great video about putting your voice out there and being a person who stutters on social media. And love this conversation. I truly do. I see people's minds opening up, even in the last half an hour. I now know that, like, Graham is on the right team. I knew this before, but now I know even more.
Thanks for watching. Remember, the goal here is authenticity, and it doesn't take a ton of time to engage with a particular community or nonprofit that might also have a stake in the story you're trying to tell. It really doesn't take much time to get it right, and The Penguin is a prime example of the filmmakers and Marc creating a character with a stutter that feels authentic. Want to see more videos like this? Hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks, everyone.